Good morning. It's Lisa with Lisa Heal Yourself. Today we're going to talk about disappointment. Okay, so disappointment is there for a purpose. And usually people who experience severe disappointment and they're in this chronic state of feeling disappointed that something they wanted didn't happen and it just didn't go their way. There's a sense, disappointment is a cover feeling. It's there to help you not go all the way down to the very bottom of our emotional states, which is powerlessness. So behind disappointment is the sense that we're powerless. We cannot do anything to change our circumstances, our experiences, our relationships, our life. And we have felt in our life before deep sense of hopelessness and powerlessness. And that's why disappointment can hurt so much, because when we feel disappointed, we know we're a step away, from going all the way down, from sinking down into that powerless, victimhood, hopeless state. So disappointment is actually there to help you. It's actually there to give you a warning, like, hey, I'm disappointed. It's actually there to catch you from falling all the way down into this hole. So when we feel disappointment, rather than feeling disappointed that we feel so disappointed, right, we must recognize disappointment and use it to help us. It is there to help you. It's there to catch you before you fall down into powerlessness. So when we realize that disappointment is a cover feeling to stop us from feeling deep sense of hopelessness and powerlessness. And when we sit in that state, we're protecting ourselves. Again, remember, our brain is trying to protect us from our feelings. The reason we allow this disappointment to come and we use it is because we're so afraid, we're so fearful of sliding all the way down into hopelessness and powerlessness and giving up our own sense of power and hope. So rather than allow that to happen, we constantly feel disappointed. We don't have to worry about getting our hopes up. And we allow ourselves to be excited and hopeful and curious, and we allow ourselves to open to the possibility of everything working out the way we want it. And it doesn't. That is when we crash down into hopelessness and we feel like giving up. So if we can stay in disappointment, if we can just continue to feel disappointed all the time, we don't allow ourselves to get our hopes up. And when we don't allow ourselves to get our hopes up, it feels easier than allowing ourselves to truly feel excited and get our hopes up and then have them crash. And because you've been through this experience before, your brain is using disappointment as a coping mechanism, as a coping strategy, as a tool to save you from getting your hopes all the way up and then getting crushed. So when we live our life in a constant state of disappointment, what we're really saying to the universe is, I expect things to go wrong. I just expect it. And if I expect it, it won't hurt so much when it does. So if I can live my life just kind of peeking out from this disappointment, allowing myself to have a little hope, allowing myself to look around just enough to kind of move me forward, but not so much that if it doesn't go my way, I won't completely fall apart. I'm already expecting it. Disappointment is an expectation about life. And we have this expectation that for us, things just don't work out. And it's difficult to have that, to live our life that way, because we never get to experience the full embodiment of happiness and joy and excitement. We never really get to feel the full expression of that because we're terribly fearful. From super high hopes all the way down to the very bottom, that crash, There's nothing worse than that in the whole entire world. And we don't feel strong enough or capable enough or trust ourselves or the universe enough to handle it, that when that happens, we're able to pick ourselves up and rise again. And the reason that we don't trust life or ourselves enough to be able to handle that crushing fall is because at one point we were happy, we were excited about life, we did trust life, and it disappointed us. It let us down in a huge way. Maybe we had a big traumatic event, right? Or something happened to us that was so shocking and so startling and caused us our whole life to completely change and turn, that now we just simply cannot bring ourselves to trust it anymore. So subconsciously, when you've had trauma in your life that has shaken you to the core, this is a subconscious coping mechanism that your autonomic nervous system has put into place. You don't even realize why you always feel so disappointed. And it's because if you can sit in this place of expecting things not to go right, expecting life maybe not to be perfect, it's easier to handle when it isn't. But it actually is no way to live your life. This is why life can seem so hard. It's because we've lowered our expectations. We lower what we expect of ourselves, what we expect of life. We lower, our goals and our dreams. We lower all these expectations for ourselves. We don't get our hopes up too high, right? And when we do that, we can never live this beautiful, joyful life. We can never really experience what we were meant to come here to experience. We are afraid to open up and raise those expectations high, raise our goals, raise our dreams, raise the standard for our relationships and our life and what we want, right? We have to be brave enough to raise these, whether or not we fail, because we can never get the juice out of life if we don't. Everything great that it has ever come in this world to anyone and in your life has come when we've raised our expectations and our dreams and our goals out of reach, right? And really tried to soar to those heights. And yes, we are going to be knocked down. We are going to have disappointments, but we must learn to trust. This is what disappointment's all about. It's learning to trust ourselves, that we're strong enough, we're courageous enough, that no matter what happens, we are going to be there for ourselves with love, unconditional love, acceptance, and unconditional forgiveness for ourselves. And this is what it's ultimately all about. Learning how to trust yourself. That you're never going to abandon yourself in your hour of need, that you're always going to be there, that you're not going to blame yourself or criticize or self-judge yourself. This is what we're really afraid of, right? We're doing it to ourselves. So at some point we must decide. We must say, you know what? I've got to stop being so hard on myself. I have to stop criticizing myself, judging myself, beating myself up, expecting perfection, right? It's this perfectionistic quality of yours that is really harming you. Number one, the way to get over disappointment, the way to stop living in this zone, this coping mechanism that you're using to get through life on because you're so afraid, right, of sinking to the bottom. Number one, life is not going to be perfect. It never will. Disappointments are going to come. Things are not going to go your way. Dreams that you have, you're going to fail, right? And you're not going to do your best. Things are not going to turn out. The universe will sometimes not comply, nor will other people. And that is a fact of life. And that is what we must accept. Not lowering our standards to meet it, but just to expect that, yes, we don't need to be perfect. The universe and myself, nobody will ever be perfect. We cannot be perfect. So stop being so hard on yourself. Stop expecting something that's not possible. Okay, that doesn't mean we can't soar for our greatest dreams and hopes, but it does mean that we don't need to pile on, that we have to get it exactly right and be perfect. Number 2, when things go wrong, and they often will, you must stop with the self-judgment and the self-criticism. The self-beating yourself up has got to go. That is step 2. You have to realize that when things don't go right, turning on yourself always makes it worse. This is where you have to learn self-compassion, self-kindness, and positive self-talk. You've got to treat yourself the way you would a child. You've got to treat yourself the way you would somebody else. You would not beat them up this way and say such critical things. Stop expecting perfection. Stop judging and criticizing yourself. Number 3, know that all failure, all disappointment is a chance to learn and grow. Remember that when we hit these lows, that when things don't go right, that when things go terribly wrong, this is all a learning opportunity. And so we must be willing to fail. We must be willing to fail so that we may learn and grow into something even more capable of meeting challenges in the future. When we fail, when we hit our failures and we pick ourselves up and we still keep our dreams and our expectations as high for life, we just need to learn how to grow into them. We develop qualities like courage and strength and determination and ambition, and we learn to be more compassionate and kind. Number 4, retrain your brain. And if you haven't seen my videos on retraining your brain, please go check that out. It's really important. We need to retrain our mind to stop expecting things to go wrong, to stop expecting that life is not going to work out for us. We've got to train our mind, and we've got to start by looking for what has gone right. What have we expected to go right, and it did go right? My guess is that you've trained yourself into, you're protecting yourself from the fact that when you believe something's going to go right, it actually goes wrong, and that hurt is too painful for you to feel. So you just begin to expect that it won't go right. But my guess is that many things that you expect to go right do go right. So start to keep a list, start to make a tally, start to notice and become super aware of what you expected to go right, and it did go right, right? So expecting things to go right does not always result in a huge disappointment. It does not always result in everything going wrong. Many things that you expect to go right do go right. You probably expected to get up this morning, and here you are. That went right. You did get up. You didn't die in your sleep. You expected to get up, and here you are. There's many things that you can look around, right? You expected to have whatever you had for breakfast, and you got up and you had it. Those ingredients were in the fridge or the cupboard, and you went ahead and you had what you expected. So we must start to recognize that many things do go right in our life. Look at all the things we expect to go right, and they do go right. We can trust ourselves. We're allowed to have high expectations. We don't need to protect ourselves from everything. Everything is not out to get us. Everything is not going to be a disappointment, right? We can allow and expect some good things to happen and notice and see that they actually do and will. We have to start allowing these little things so that we can trust ourselves and life to provide, and then we can start to dream higher, set our expectations even higher. Life is disappointing. There's lots of disappointments in life. That is just a fact on planet Earth. Now, when you have a small child, we help them learn to get over disappointments, right? We sign them up for soccer, and they love soccer, and they go out and play a game and they lose. They feel disappointment. Now, do we tell them, well, you should expect always to lose, and then it won't hurt so much? You shouldn't try at soccer anymore. You should give up on soccer because, you're going to lose and it's going to hurt. So therefore you should never play in the first place. Of course not. We don't tell them to lower their expectations and not to believe that they can and should try hard and go out and enjoy the game. And when they lose, they just need to pick themselves up and brush themselves up and realize that this is part of life for everyone, right? And we always tell our children, it's about having fun, not winning or losing. So if you apply that to yourself, expect, yes, you're going to lose some games. Things are not going to go right. You're not going to win them all. You're going to lose just as much as you're going to win. But if the goal is to have fun, then we've got to let ourselves dream and try and get out there and enjoy and participate in life. That's how we win, is by how much fun we are having, by how engaged we are, by trying and learning and failing and growing and making friends along the way, right? This is what we tell our children, and this is what we need to tell ourselves. And what if that same child loses 10 games in a row? They lose all season, and they try, and every day they're disappointed. Should we say, well, but they love soccer. They want to be in soccer. All their friends are in soccer. Do we say, well, soccer's just not your game. Give up. Never go try anything again. Probably no sport will be your game. You should just stay home and not play sports. Because the fact is, if they don't go and play and they don't go and try, they're going to be sitting home. And rather than being disappointed that they lost the game, they're going to be disappointed that they're left out, that they don't have any friends. They're going to be disappointed that they're missing out. They're going to be disappointed that they're not at that after game. So no matter what way they do it, there's going to be disappointment in life. So wouldn't you rather try and set your expectations high and lose and trust that you can still get out and continue to keep going and try again? The disappointment doesn't kill you. It's the withdrawing that kills us. It's the closing down that hurts us most. It's the self-protecting and feeling self-critical and self-judging and self-loathing that is really the problem here, right? It's the fear. It's the fear of the feeling of falling and not trusting ourselves, that we're capable and we're strong and we can do it and we can handle failure to get back up and try again, right? It's the holding on to these disappointments and expecting them that actually hurts us, rather than getting out there and having fun and expecting what we expect, whatever outcome happens, but trying to enjoy the journey along the way and knowing we're capable enough to get up, pick up the pieces and move forward and learn from it. Once we realize that disappointments are going to happen, that they're part of life, that we all have to pick ourselves up and keep ourselves moving forward, make our dreams big, go for what we really want, get involved in the process, expand rather than contract, right? Open rather than close, try rather than give up. Once we realize that these things are going to happen to everyone, and if we really want to get the juice out of life, that we have to keep our energies moving to what we do want, Again, so if you haven't checked out those videos on future creation, please do that now. But if you just cannot, if you're just living in this state of constant fear and your expectations are lowered and you're constantly disappointed, then lastly, I think that you have bigger issues. We need to look at what's under the disappointment. And it's usually a sense of hopelessness, grief, powerlessness, right? So if you have not checked out my videos on grief, deep sadness, loss, please go check that out. And if you haven't watched my video on hopelessness, what to do when you're hopeless, right? Go check that out, because these are the deeper emotions that are actually underneath the disappointment, that are actually underneath the cause of you setting your expectations so low. And when we heal what's underneath, when we heal what's deeper down, these wounds, right? These traumatic wounds of deep grief and deep loss and deep powerlessness and victimhood and hopelessness. And if you haven't seen my videos on victimhood, go watch that. When we heal these deeper feelings and these deeper wounds underneath, then we can begin to heal ourselves. We can begin to actually realize that disappointment's okay and that we can trust ourselves to move past it. But if we haven't yet healed what's deep down and we haven't built up that unconditional love and trust in ourselves yet and forgiveness in ourselves yet, then we actually need to go back and do some deeper healing work so that we can begin to take disappointment in stride and learn from it and pick ourselves up and move forward. And when we can't, it is pointing to what's underneath that needs to be healed. So please do the deeper healing work if these steps aren't helping you to get through disappointment. Then we know that we need to go deeper. We need to look at the deeper emotions of shame, guilt, grief, hopelessness, victimhood, abandonment. We need to look deeper and do the work there. That will help raise us up, and it will help us realize that we don't need to use disappointment as a protection mechanism anymore. Right? We can and we should set our goals and our dreams high, get involved in life, and push, knowing that we will fail, we will fall along the way, and that that's okay. Because when you give yourself unconditional love, acceptance, and you're going to be there for yourself, right, to learn and grow into the best you that you can be, then you are going to be able to handle disappointment. You're going to be able to handle it and keep moving forward with what you really do want in life. So I hope this has been helpful. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, and I will see you in the next video.